Hey YouTube, back again. I was talking to a friend yesterday in Burger King. He was telling me about his roommate who didn't believe that Jesus existed. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Like, people who don't even believe, that Jesus was God believed he existed. People that hate Christianity and atheists even believe historically Jesus existed. Just like when you believe that Alexander the Great existed, you may not like what he did, but you believe he existed. Denying Jesus is like denying the existence of Jesus is like denying the Holocaust. It's something that obviously happened. It's obviously recorded, but you, because you are a skinhead or a Nazi or whatever, you just say, "Oh, it never happened. It was fabricated." Like, that's just crazy to deny things that are obviously true for your own personal agenda. It's just not intellectually honest, and it makes you look like a fool. So to even do this, but to his roommate's defense, he just got this probably from some professor at college, because public universities are atheist mills. You go in agnostic or religious or not even caring, you come out a devout atheist with an agenda to make sure the world believes the same as you. I mean, they're atheist factories. And so he probably just got that from one of these professors. And unfortunately, people don't look up things for themselves. They just believe what people say, especially if you have PhD behind your name or doctor behind your name. People just go, "Oh, well, you must know what you're talking about, so I believe you." So his roommate probably heard it and just believed it. So I'm going to try to give this to anybody who wants to understand the real deal about the historical Jesus. He actually did exist. Now, whether or not you want to worship him as God, that's on you. I mean, you're a grown person. If you're listening to this, you do what you want to do. I'm just telling you what the deal is, that he existed and how we can know he existed. All right, so check this out. Just a few references. I'll read them to you, tell you who the reference is from. You can go to the library and look it up yourself. And you'll probably find some other references too. I don't have time to go through everybody, so I just got a few here. All right? So first is from a dude named Tacitus. It's spelled Tacitus. It could be Tacitus. I'm not sure how they pronounced it back then. But anyway, he was an ancient historian who lived AD 64. So he said Nero, he was talking about how Nero put the blame on Christians for burning down Rome. And here's what he wrote. Nero fastened the guilt on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Christus, which is another name for Christ, Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilate, and a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for a moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome. So Tacitus or Tacitus tells us that there was a guy named Christus or Christ who was crucified under Pontius Pilate under the reign of Tiberius, and he says that that's where Christians got their name. And he says he calls Christianity a mischievous superstition. So this isn't somebody who's pro-Christian. He says, and a most mischievous superstition, thus checked for a moment, again broke out, not only in Judea, the first source of the evil. So he's calling Christianity evil. So this is a dude who says Jesus lived and was crucified, and he's not a Christian source. He's not a follower of Jesus. So check him out. So here's another dude, Pliny, Pliny, Pliny the Younger. This is dated around AD 112, and he says they were in the habit of meeting. He's talking about Christians. They were in the habit of meeting on certain fixed days before it was light, when they sang in alternative verses a hymn to Christ. Now, Pliny's not a worshiper of Jesus either. He thinks they're idiots. So Listen to this. At least it sounds like he thinks they're idiots. And sang a hymn to Christ as to God, and bound themselves by a solemn oath, not to any wicked deeds, but never to commit any fraud, theft, or adultery, never to falsify their word, nor deny a trust when they should be called upon to deliver it up. After which it was their custom to separate and then reassemble to partake of food, but food of an ordinary and innocent kind. So I'm not sure by that if Pliny was a worshiper of Jesus. I hadn't really looked. I guess if you investigate Pliny, you can find out. But that's what Pliny wrote about the Christians, that they sang a hymn to Christ as to God. So obviously there was a Christ to sing a hymn to. All right. Here's Josephus. He's writing. I don't see the date on this writing, but here's Josephus. You can look him up easy. Josephus writes, "About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one ought to call him a man, for he wrought surprising feats. He was the Christ. When Pilate condemned him to be crucified, those who had come to love him did not give up their affection for him. On the third day he appeared, restored to life, and the tribe of Christians has not disappeared." So it doesn't sound like to me that he's including himself in the tribe of Christians. Maybe he is. You'd have to research that. But he makes it clear that there was a Christ, and he did miracles and surprising feats, etc., etc. So you can check out Josephus at your local library, etc. Okay, here's a Babylonian Talmud. Now these dudes, this is the Talmud. This is a Jewish writing. The Jews considered Jesus a false teacher and someone who needed to be crucified. Even if you go to a Jewish synagogue today and you say, "Hey, what do you think about Jesus?" They're not going to start clapping and sit you down and tell you how much they love Jesus. Jews back then and even today think Jesus was a false prophet, except for Messianic Jews. And I have a Jewish friend, I said, "What do you think of Messianic Jews?" He actually got mad at me just for bringing it up. Jews that worship Jesus. So this writing comes from the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, people who do not support Jesus at all. On the eve of the Passover, Yeshua, which is the Hebrew name for Jesus, was hanged. So they even admit that Jesus was a person and he was hanged on a cross. On the eve of the Passover, Yeshua was hanged. For 40 days before the execution took place, a herald cried, "He is going forth to be stoned because he has practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy." So even the Jews who hated him admitted that he existed and that he was hanged and that he was stoned, going forth to be killed because he practiced sorcery. They considered his miracles just to be sorcery. And he enticed Israel to apostasy. He enticed Jews to leave the Jewish religion, the traditional Jewish religion, and to follow him. So you have it from his enemies that Jesus existed. Here is another historian, Lucian. It's Lucian. Could be pronounced Lucian. You can look him up, I'm sure, at your public library. Or, even online. He writes he was a 2nd century Greek historian. And he writes, "The Christians worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rites and was crucified on that account." So even this guy says this dude lived and he was crucified. You don't hear any of these ancient writers denying the fact that Jesus existed. The only people you hear are denying the fact that Jesus existed is modern day atheists, because they have an agenda and they will tell you that, not because they love you or they care about you or they want you to know the truth. They have an agenda. They need more people on their team. So they're spreading, their propaganda to get more people on their team to push forth their agendas. Modern atheists deny the existence of Jesus, right? But these ancient historians, you won't find an ancient historian, and I I dare you, I challenge you, go to the library, find an ancient 1st or 2nd century historian who denies the existence of Jesus. You're not going to find one. All right? So the Christians worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rights and was crucified on that account. It was impressed on them by their original lawgiver, Jesus, that they are all brothers from the moment that they are converted, and deny the gods of Greece, and worship the crucified sage, and live after his laws. So he's kind of being sarcastic and calling him the crucified sage, but he is acknowledging the man's existence. And I could go on, but I don't want to make a hour-long video. What I want to suggest to you is, I know we're in the age where people just like to watch a lot of TV, but you got to read, man. When people tell you stuff, you got to go research that stuff, man, because people have an agenda. You need to research what I tell you and what anybody tells you. And you need to make sure that when you come to your conclusions, you came to your conclusions because of what you know to be right according to what you have looked at, right? And not just what somebody told you, all right? Now, is that to say that you can't, you have to be like Rene Descartes and doubt everybody? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when people tell you stuff, think about it a little bit. You know what I mean? Read the Bible, read some literature, kind of smoke it over. Don't just eat everything people are trying to feed you, because people could be trying to feed you, even me, I could be trying to feed you garbage, right? So just, look out for yourself, especially your spiritual well-being, all right? Jesus did exist. Denying Jesus is like trying to deny that the Holocaust happened, it's just crazy, all right? I love you, man, love you so much, and Jesus loves you. God loves you so much, and he brought you to this YouTube page to reach you. And so I'm hoping that this is beneficial to you spiritually. All right? God bless you. Peace.